Here are some compound data types available in Sway. We will take a look at tuples, structs, and arrays. Let's create a tuple of type U64 and Boolean. So I'll type let T is of type U64 and Boolean. And this is equal to, let's say this is equal to 1, 2, 3 and true. To access this tuple, let's say that we wanted to access the first element in this tuple, the number U64. Then it's similar to how you would access an array, except that you will use a dot. So if you wanted to access the first element, you would type t dot 0. So this will return the number 1 to 3. So what I mean here is that t0 will be equal to 1 to 3. And if you wanted to access the second element, so this will be the Boolean, then we would type t dot 1. Inside the tuple, access the element at index 1, which will be the Boolean. So this will be equal to true. If you wanted to destructure this tuple into two parts, so we want to assign a variable to the first element and another variable to the second element, here's how you would do it. Let's say let the first element will be a number, so I'll name this as num, and the second element will be a Boolean, so I'll name it boo, is equal to t. From the tuple t, assign the first element to a variable named num, and assign the second element to a variable named boo. So that's tuples. Next, let's take a look at structures. First, I'm going to scroll up and let's define a struct. And for this example, we'll create a struct that represents a point. It will have two fields named x and y, which represents numbers. So we'll name the struct point. It's going to have two fields, x of type U64 and y of type also U64. To use this struct, what you would do is, let's name this p, that p is equal to point, curly braces. For the first field, we'll say is 1, and for the second field, y, we'll say it's equal to 2. Let's say that we have a struct called p and we wanted to access the field x, then you would do p.x. This will be equal to, in this case, equal to 1. And likewise, to access the field named y, you would do p.y, and this will be equal to 2. Next, let's take a look at examples of some fixed-sized arrays. Let's create a fixed-size array of U8, and this fixed-size array will have 5 elements. So we'll say let U are of type. This will be a fixed-sized array, an array of type U8 having the size 5. And let's say this will be equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me show you another example. Let's create a fixed-sized array of strings, and each string will have length 3. So I'll type let sr of type string. Each string will have length 3. And let's say we'll create a fixed size array of length 4 equal to, let's say cat, dog, 2 more elements, rat, and bat. So notice that each string has length 3. And inside this array we have 4 elements. So this was an example of a fixed-sized array. Each element is of type string having the length 3, and there are 4 elements. We can also create something more complex. So remember that we created a struct of points. We can also create a fixed-sized array of points. And to do that, let's say let points of type point. Let's create a fixed-sized array of length 2. So 2. I realized I made a mistake. This should be a semicolon. Okay, going back. 2 points. This will be equal to brackets. Let's say point, curly braces, x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2. And another point, x is equal to, let's say 3, and y is equal to 4. What if you wanted to mutate an array? Let's look at an example of mutating an array. So say let mute. This keyword mute tells Sway that whatever variable that we're declaring is mutable, meaning that we'll be able to mutate whatever data that is inside this variable. Let's name this mute underscore r, and let's create a fixed-sized array of booleans. So say boo and of size 2. And let's say this is equal to true and false. Let's update the element at the first index. So let's update this false to true. So we say mute r of 1 is equal to true. And we can do this because we declare this variable mute array with the keyword mute. If you remove this keyword, then we won't be able to do an update like we did over here. Okay, lastly, let's return this struct point. So to do that, first I'm gonna change this ABI declaration. Test function, instead of returning a boolean, we'll return a struct point, so say point. And for our implementation, we'll do the same. Test function returns a point. And lastly, we're returning a boolean, and we'll change this to return a point. Let's say we'll return a point with x equals 1, 2, 3 and y equals 4, 5, 6. Now here again, we can say return point semicolon, or as a shortcut, we can just say point without the return and without the semicolon. Okay, let's try compiling this contract. I'm going to open my terminal and then type fork build. And our contract compiles. So those were some examples of compound types available in Sway. I showed you examples of tuples, structs, and arrays.